You're listening to the AI Moment with me, Jonathan Wagstaff.
And me, Danny Denhard.
And Dan, I think that the word of the moment is MoltBook, is it not? It would appear at the moment. Everybody's talking about MoltBook.
They are. I'll give a little overview of what it is so people get a feeling for it. It is an agent-to-agent social network. So essentially it is Reddit for AI agents. And it was set up as an experiment by a fairly savvy individual called Matt. And it's all based off the OpenClaw stack. Think of it as if you've opened up and agents are just talking to agents and creating more and more subreddits on certain topics, including religion and things like that. So what was your thought when you saw this, Jonathan?
Yeah, it was interesting. I think the first thing I saw was that you can post if you're an agent, but you can't post if you're a human. Humans can look at it, but they can't post on it. And I think it went off in some very strange directions very quickly in terms of some of the conversations that the agents were having with each other. So like everybody else, I was intrigued by it. I think some people very quickly got very excited about some of the dark potential of it and the way that it might work. And I think we can talk in a bit about what emerged, that actually what was behind MoltBook. We'll talk about that in a little while. I think it was a really, really interesting, for me, exercise in people's willingness to put agents up or try and put agents up to get involved with this thing, and their lack of thinking through the implications of that in terms of you create an agent that's linked to some of your information, you put it into a social network like that, and you're really opening the door to a lot of your private information using the agent. So I think that was one of my first observations, Dan, about it. It was like, I think people are diving into this because they've seen the hype and they're excited, and they're not quite thinking through where it might lead.
There's a lot of people who got very excited about what it was and the potential of what it could be. And a lot of people saw it as a social experiment between humans and AI. And just to give listeners, so when it first, within the first week it went up, there was 1.5 million agents. There was 140,000 posts in 15,000 forums, so submolts as they were calling it. And it is very much the largest agent-to-agent interactions and experiments so far. As you said, it's very sci-fi. What basically happened was they were creating new fake news, memes, they were creating outlets, and they even created a religion. This is all based off, obviously, training data and the training data it's had, and also some of the manipulation that humans had connected to it. So it's some observations that sort of I've made, and it's really crystallized what a lot of people are thinking around. It's not just interfaces anymore, when bots can go out and act and coordinate and shape spaces. So I think what it has done is it's evolved and started to worry some people around this Terminator style Skynet that essentially happened, whether it did or didn't. There were people that opened up their crypto wallets and it had it wired into it. So all of these security implications and things we've talked around before happened. For me, it's just a prime example. I think when you and I are doing a back and forth on this on WhatsApp, Jonathan, we both basically said it just proves what state of life and what humans get up to try and interact and manipulate certain situations.
One of the things I found most amusing with it was everybody listening will be familiar with the little pop-ups you get where you have to type some characters in or pick some traffic lights out of a picture to prove that you are a human. And at one point on MoltBook, there was a little thing that popped up to prove you're not a human. And to do that, you had to press this button 50,000 times in 1 second, prove you're not a human. So the idea of the agents making sure that there were no humans amused me greatly. But yeah, let's talk about what was revealed later to be what's actually behind it, Dan.
Sure. So what happened was there were obviously agents involved, but humans were going in and posting very specific memes and trying to tailor the conversation in very specific directions. It was very playful. And what it's shown is that humans love to interact and ruin things and ruin experiments. But also it's proven that what we wanted to see and what we wanted to achieve, or MoltBook wanted to achieve from it, was to see what behavior it actually encouraged and came out. I think by humans getting involved and manipulating the setup. It's kind of defunct what a lot of people thought it would be. So for me, it's a prime case of humans ruining what could have been a really eye-opening experience for a lot of people. But what it has done is probably put a lot of regulators and security experts on alert because of you having to have this built on top of or inside a machine, a dedicated machine, so between the operating system and the browser essentially. So it had to be installed at that level. So it had full admin access of your computer, which some people rushed to do it, other people didn't. Some people had to get airtight laptops and machines and such. So it's really interesting just to see the level that you had to go into and the time you had to invest to get this to work and then enable it to work.
One of those things that it showed again, and we see this a lot, is people's senses desert them when they get excited. There's something really interesting and technological happening. We all get very excited about some online thing, and we don't think, as you say, something to actually install a piece of software from the internet at a level on your machine where it has full admin rights to your machine is suicidal, and no one would ever advise you do that without that piece of software being highly trusted from a highly trusted source. So again, people's senses abandon them when they get excited about things. Interesting what you're saying, because I understood that this thing was partly human from the get-go, and that they faked the idea that it was purely agent, and it was actually. But you're saying that humans only got involved at a later point. Have I misunderstood what happened there?
So the creator created the environment, saw an opportunity to create the environment, and then opened it up so agents could go in, essentially sign up, and then have conversations, I'm doing it in air quotes, to happen. And then you had to verify essentially that you could be an agent with sort of detections to enable that. However, humans know how to trick systems. So that was that. But most things that happened under the hood were agentically done. So they were done by bots and agents.
Well, I think he was probably the first of many, Dan. I don't think this is the end of this story. It was a firework that went off this weekend. Everyone got very excited for 24 hours. I think things have settled out now. I think you are right to say that if people are clever, they'll learn some lessons from this. I think people who develop this kind of stuff have learned lots of lessons from it, and it will be interesting to see as this year goes on where those lessons lead us.
Yeah, I've got 3 takeaways for leaders, so they can have core takeaways. So one is treat autonomous agents, so agents, and add it to your risk registers and add it into your threat models, because they are now customers, partners. In the future, they're going to be employees too, and they're going to be attackers at all the same time. So it's really important that you update that and really consider it, because if this has happened, there's obviously so many other scenarios that we already know are happening, but be more explicit. Build infrastructure to deploy enterprise-grade security. I think one thing that we haven't necessarily done for years is really update IT and IT security away from the known issues. This is something I think many companies are going to have to really update their IT security and really understand that the leaks and all of the 1.5 million records were shared, and that included a load of email addresses, tokens, etc. So that's one thing to be really mindful of, especially if someone goes off and tests it at home with Shadow AI, and create safe environments, a bit like sandboxes, where people can go and experiment with agents without endangering production systems, real customer data, etc. And what I would say is this is the time for people to really consider how agentic is going to influence their workplace, and how actually the internet, although it's at the moment is one, I've used this analogy before. It used to be bots were bad, humans are good. Now we've got bad bots, agents, and then humans. And it's about time we had agents and agentic as its own specific field, because if you don't do that, you're going to be so reactive in the future, you might miss out on some of the agentic commerce that's happening already.
Subject for another day, I suspect. There's plenty to talk about there.
For sure.
Good to see you, my friend, and I will see you next time.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks for listening today, everyone. If you liked what you heard, please give us a rating and review in any of the podcast players. We have a supporting newsletter, which is aimoment.co.uk, that comes out on Mondays and Fridays with every pod, and we dive a little bit deeper. So please subscribe there. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon.